seats present and 2/3. So I guess that would be 3 out of 4, or would that be 4 out of 5? Yeah.
So we need another female voice on the council, I think.
Yeah. We had 3.
Yeah, we did.
It was a nice balance.
Yeah, it was.
Stephanie's the only one that stayed.
The only survivor, Stephanie.
Yeah, I'm staying as long as you'll have me.
Well, we've had about a year or we've had a long run of really, not complicated projects. So we have to throw one in there every now and then, toss you a.
Throw one stinker in there every once in a while.
There's a monthly free webinar from the North Coast chapter of the American Planning Association that might be interesting for your planning commissioners to be aware of and participate in. It's just a good monthly educational event.
That's a good idea. I'll send that. I'll sign them up for that. I don't think I get the. Oh, is that the one that Stephen Ava started, or is that a different one?
Bob Brown now manages it.
Okay, yeah, I'll send that out to them.
Yeah, SHN.
I feel like I should call Chris.
Is Commissioner Wells available tonight? Do you know?
I did not hear from him. Usually he will tell me. I saw that he has his lake toys in his driveway when I delivered the packet. So I think he's closed down from the lake for the summer.
I think Mike is in Arizona visiting his son
Oh.
right now. So basically, if Chris doesn't come on, we don't have quorum and no meeting tonight, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
I'm looking up his number. I'll give him a call.
I thought I heard Kevin in the lobby earlier today. Oh, he didn't get his packet though. He was closed.
I was muted. Yeah, he's getting on.
So if Larry is our vice chair. Oh, okay.
Didn't he and I get on about the same time, Liz?
Pretty much. How long have you been on?
I've slept since.
I would say 4 or 5 years then.
looking at things in the council chambers. So the main holdup is being able to combine the technologies, combining in person with virtual, because we don't want to just drop virtual. There's still people, you know, that are going to want to stay not in crowds. So it's a matter of getting everything to be able to work together. So I think we need to update the cameras and things so that they can be used in the council chambers, and then also have Zoom plugged into them as well. So I know the city clerk's office is working on that. Soon. Also, the city council, we won't meet in person until
We forgive you.
It happens.
Very super frustrated tonight. Sorry for everybody, really, man. So, everybody ready? We're all here. Everybody's having a good night. So we have a quorum. We have everybody. We got anybody besides Sandy?
we have a quorum.
Yes.
Are you on a phone?
I am on a phone, so.
Okay, then you probably won't be able to see everybody then. We have, we have Sandy and Stephanie, your sites and you, so that's 4.
So sorry, everybody. Every other piece of technology I have did not want to work tonight. So I'm really sorry I'm late. Okay, so we're ready to rock and roll. So let's start it off. Let's do the flag salute. So for everybody at home that is watching, we're going to start the meeting of the Planning Commission for Fortuna for September 14th. Please understand with the COVID thing, we're not disrespecting anybody by not everybody doing it and not standing up. I'm going to do the flag salute myself. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The approval of the minutes from September 14th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of September 14th as presented.
I second.
Katie,
Great, roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely,
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie,
Yes.
Chairman Mobley,
yes.
and Commissioner Sights.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to move on to public comment. So members of the public may be heard on any item of interest not on the agenda. Speakers addressing the commission will be limited to 3 minutes or whatever we got going on. Please be advised that by law, the commission is not able to deliberate or take action on any issue that is not on the agenda tonight. Katie's going to give you a whole bunch of information right there. If anybody is watching at home that wants to talk to us, please call the number, follow the prompts, and we will be glad to listen to you tonight. We really love to hear from people, so please do that. How's everybody been? I got a thumbs up over there. Everybody enjoying the fall weather?
Beautiful and cold.
Yeah, kind of like this time of year.
Why?
It starts feeling good, be honest with you. It's not too hot, not too cold. Got that nice feeling that you can cuddle up, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I look like a big cuddle up kind of guy, don't I? Katie, are we hearing anything from anyone?
No calls.
No calls. All right. Looking for a motion to close public comment.
I move that we close public comment.
I'll second it.
Thank you both. Okay, do we have to do a whole?
We don't need to do a roll call to close public comment.
Cool. All right, well, let's move on to the business at hand. So we continued, this is a continuous of a public hearing to consider a recommendation of the Fortuna to the Fortuna City Council. Amending the Fortuna Municipal Code, deleting chapter 17.61.180, secondary residence dwelling, and replacing it with 17.06.00 1.5 accessory dwelling. So this is a continuous from last time, and the continuous was pretty much, I think, this is my opinion, but we were all kind of frustrated with the whole issue of being told what we have to do. And the whole thing came about that we need just a little bit more information on it. Did everybody get their packets and read through what was going on? Did anybody have any more comments or questions about what was happening that didn't get discussed in the last meeting?
We do have a brief presentation to present, the additional information that was provided in the packet, kind of focusing on what you asked for as far as, just identifying the where the planning commission or where the city has flexibility. So I think that should be pretty quick to walk through that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but do we have the same the person that was doing the presentation last time?
I'm sorry?
We have the same person that was doing the presentation last time?
Yes. Rob Holden from Plan West Partners is here, and Vanessa Blodgett from Plan West is also here.
So Rob is here. Rob, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So Rob, last time you were here, you were giving us a lot of information, and we weren't real perceptive to the fact, and I apologize for that. You were kind of the messenger, and we were kind of shooting the messenger, and I apologize for that. Wasn't very polite to you, that being in the friendly city. Don't take it personal.
Yeah, no apology needed. You're right. We're just the messenger here, and our message is that there's certain things the state obligates cities to do, and then you have some options. And so the item on the table is, what do you want to do with your options?
Right, and we weren't real perceptive. At least I wasn't real perceptive to you, and I apologize for myself. How's that? I'm not going to apologize for anybody else, but I'll apologize for myself. Looking over what we did last time and what you guys sent this time, I really appreciate all the work you done, and try not to do that to you again tonight. So thank you very much for doing what you're doing. Anybody have any questions before we start this thing?
I have a kind of an introductory question. I've read over the materials, and Mike Wells kind of gave me an overview of the last meeting, but I was working the election as a poll worker, and so I wasn't there on the 14th. But tell me a little bit, Plan West Partners, are you guys local, or are you out of the area?
Yeah, we're local. Well, we're in Arcata, and we've been around for 25 years, this coming next year, and doing a lot of local planning. We do a lot of work in Ferndale and working with Fortuna and Arcata and McKinleyville and the Harbor District. And so we do a lot of planning in the region, and have updated housing elements, multiple housing elements for different jurisdictions, and are now doing ADU ordinances and other zoning related updates for different cities and jurisdictions.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions just before we start this? So anything from previous that didn't get answered that you'd like to hear about? Well, hearing none, let's move on and start the show. So if you two would like to please do your presentation, and of course, we'd be glad to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just start it off really briefly. So the packet that you received, the attached draft ordinance, there aren't any changes to that, but what the staff report does is identify the code sections where there is some flexibility so that you can kind of focus on those. that flexibility is allowed by state law. Basically, everything else in the code is, just like a reformatting of the state government code. And then, so those, I think there are like 6 sections that are in the packet, and Rob is going to present those briefly, and then let you discuss them and make decisions. You can walk through each one and discuss those. The first part of the staff report, I did give you a history of the state law and just kind of some actions that have been taken in the city, by the city council to get us to where we're at now. And, the state, starting in, I think, like 2018, passed a series of legislative acts that created the government code section addressing ADUs. And, basically starting out by requiring that ADUs be allowed as a principally permitted use in all cities and counties in the state. So removing any kind of like use permit or special permit, or possibly an outright prohibition in some cities, for the interest of creating affordable housing. And those legislative acts did get increasingly more restrictive, resulting in, the one that you're dealing with now. And I think it's frustrating because, of course, they removed much of, the jurisdiction's autonomy. And also, in a lot of instances, the standards are more permissive for an ADU than they are for, say, a single family residence being constructed, on that parcel. So like the setbacks can be as low as 4 feet. And, parking can be eliminated and things like that. So I think that, there is a lot of frustrating components, but that's what we're dealing with. The city council at a workshop, a planning priorities workshop, I think that was in 2018, did direct staff, did prioritize certain programs out of the housing element. So the housing element was adopted, and it does include an ADU policy that, that the city's ordinance gets updated to conform the state law. So the council did make that a priority. And after that, the council authorized staff to submit a grant application to HCD for the SB2 grant that is funding this ordinance update and some other housing related policies as well. So that's kind of how we got here. And it does kind of create clear direction from the council that this is the path that they have, want the staff to take. And so your recommendation is really important in that process. Also included in the packet, I did provide HCD's ADU handout, which really kind of describes in there, some more informal language, the state government code requirements. So if you've had a chance to look at that, it kind of provides, a different or a clarifying language on a lot of these, how these can get implemented. And then you did ask for a comparison or just, what other cities are doing. And we did find, Katie found a website, really, I think it's related to HCD, which provides all of the ADU ordinances that have been adopted in the state, and a link to each of those ordinances. So if you had a chance to look at that, it's pretty interesting to, do a comparison. The few that I looked on that I saw were cities that just basically followed the state and didn't even, those cities chose to actually facilitate more ADU development as, infill affordable housing. So I didn't come across any that were trying to be more restrictive, but, the state does make that pretty hard to be more restrictive. But, Plan West did kind of pull out all of the areas where we do have some discretion, and that's what is in the packet, and which Rob will present. So, as far as the process, I think, when I did kind of list the history and the steps we've taken, I think, we are in a good position of making good progress on, this ordinance, as well as we're concurrently working on the other projects in that SB2 grant, which, we can talk about that at another time, but that has been in your monthly report. And I think we've talked about a few things, the design review standards and multifamily standards as well, and a few others. So that's basically how, we're at this point, and I'm going to hand it over to Plan West to describe the standards for you in more detail.
Thanks, Liz. And I think I'll get us started, and then Rob is going to chime in and fill in as we take you through this. And we don't really have a fancy presentation, but I do have the kind of what your staff report goes through, the kind of options that we're going to be talking about that I can put up on my screen. It's just the text. So do you think that would be helpful to have up on the screen as we discuss it? I guess it's what's in the packet.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to help them go through each
Okay.
item, item by
I'm
item.
gonna share my screen then, and get this up here. We'll see it in a minute. Okay, can you see that now? Yes, okay. So overall, where the city has discretion is how you want to address if there are specific sites or specific projects where applicants want to deviate from the standards. And that means, so if they can't meet all the standards that are in there, or they want to need to modify them in some way just to meet site constraints or other concerns, then they can go through a process to do that. So, if they want to deviate from objective design standards, they can go through design review. And if they want to deviate from the development standards, then they can come to Planning Commission for a use permit. So this is how it's written currently and proposed in the regulations. And the other option is to not allow for deviations in the standards, which would limit people, what people could potentially, how they could build an ADU on their property. So this is the first kind of section where we want to have a discussion and decide if this is how we want to move forward as proposed, or if we want to discuss the other option.
Well, here's a question to the commission. Did all of you get the updates that we were asking for?
Yes.
Is there anything that is different from the last meeting that we need to go over? I mean, do we really need to go over all the standards that were set? I said, I know we weren't real perceptive to this last time. I know I wasn't. I'm not a real mandate kind of guy. You tell me you have to do something, and because I said so, and I'm not real happy about that. But looking back over it is what we're going to end up doing. What I've read and what I'm looking at, where they've made the recommendations, I'm been pretty good with what the recommendations are. But I want everybody else's feelings. How do you want to go through these? You want to each one, or do you want to how you guys want to proceed, basically?
I'm with you, Chris. I think what's been presented is good.
Yes, I was able to watch the meeting because I was out of town. And so I'm up on what happened, and I'm up on the paperwork, and I feel it's just a point of streamlining, as Katie said, maybe, possibly. I mean, that's how I'm taking it. And it looks good to me.
Does anybody feel like they need to go over more of this, or can we move this forward with more discussion? It's up to you guys, and I don't want to push it along. I want everybody to have their input. But I know, like I said, last time, I was very unperceptive to the fact, and I apologize for that. I really do. Looking at it, really don't want somebody else's house 4 feet away from mine. If I'm renting.
I have a question for Vanessa or Rob or both of them. I'm assuming that you guys have worked closely with the city council on this.
We went to the city council in a study session a while ago and provided, some kind of the basic highlights and topics of this. And then we are coming back to you. We worked with a stakeholder group. So this has been out to stakeholders that included, builders, residents. It included kind of hopefully a diverse mix of people. We tried to get a diverse mix of people on that stakeholder group, which is also working with some of the other SB2 projects. So it has been gone through that group. And then we are coming back to you to get the recommendation to take it to the city council next.
So I guess, go ahead, you guys, go ahead.
I was just going to build on that just a little and say that what we're talking about here is changing the city law when it comes to land use. And so the state requires that every city has to have a planning commission. And whenever you change the law about land use in the city, the planning commission has to make a recommendation to city council. So we have met with the city council about this in a general sense. We've met with the stakeholder group and gone over the details. Now in the process, we're looking for your recommendation to council. And then from here, we have to go to city council where they'll actually take the action to change the city law. So to answer your question, yes, but we do have to go back to them for them to adopt this and for them to deliberate on your recommendation.
Yeah, I was aware of that. I was just wondering how much interaction y'all have had with them.
2 meetings several months ago.
Okay.
So one of the questions that I know Kevin's not here tonight, and he is, when it comes to insurance and stuff, he's kind of our guru on the team. He had brought up the fact that his insurance company, for the most part, like I said, would not be insuring any of these properties or canceling their insurance because of this. If the main structure is not, if the secondary structure is bigger than the main structure or becomes vice versa, that the secondary structure is now become the main structure because of the way the property sits. And then again, with the fire, the state fire marshal and people like that, has all that gone through scrutiny with all this? And I talked to Liz a little bit about today, about we're not going to be the little engine that this little town is going to change what's going on, but I'm sure somebody somewhere has thought about this. Has that gone through?
I did talk to the building official and the fire department about the fire safety standards. And they both said that, that the regulations, the 4-foot setback from the property line was what we discussed, and that does meet the fire code. And I assume, well, the fire department and the building department, obviously the building department processes our, permits. And if it doesn't meet the building code, it's not gonna get approved. And we also refer the permits to the fire department. So anything, if there's any type of, design that doesn't meet the code, they are it's not gonna go through. So overall, the standard does meet the codes. If there are any specific situations where that's in question, it's going to be scrutinized by both of those departments.
So it's not whether it meets the new codes. The new codes that we're setting tonight.
Right. No, we were talking about the new codes.
So has anything been talked about through insurance companies and writing policies or anything like that? It'd be really, I'm sure it'd be really upsetting to somebody that they can't insure a new structure that they just put, thousands of dollars in. Has that gone through anywhere in the state? I'm only asking because I know Kevin's not here and I know that was one of his big deals.
I can say that if it's helpful, I did a little bit of research and looked around the city, and this would only apply if someone had a house that was less than 1,200 square feet and then wanted to build an ADU that was larger than their house. And as I'm looking around the city, I can't find any houses that are less than 1,200 square feet. So this may be just a theoretical conversation. But the solution seems pretty easy to me in that when an applicant comes forward to the city, it would be city staff responsibility to say, hey, FYI, you've got a very unusual situation here where your house is smaller than 1,200 square feet and you're planning on building larger than 1,200 square feet. So therefore, I encourage you to check with your insurance provider. But overall, the city doesn't regulate the insurance industry. So at best, the city staff can merely inform property owners when they fall into the either very unusual or what I think is probably not actually going to ever occur in Fortuna type of situation.
Okay.
I think it's a smart question to ask, but in the research I've done, I don't think that situation exists in Fortuna. And if it does, I think city staff could inform the applicant, you've got a really unusual situation here. I encourage you to talk to your insurance provider.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about this or need to have further discussion or do want to hear the whole explanation again? And I'm not trying to push it along. I really, really want to know where we're at with everybody. Has everybody read into this and seen it?
Is the question before us whether to basically the resolution that staff recommends is to summarize it for me.
So what you're looking at on your paperwork is everything that they've highlighted in red is what we're going to adopt. That to have a few restrictions other than what the state standard is, anything that we can instead of an 800 square foot, we can go to a 1,200 square foot. There's a few standards that we can change. The standards that they have outlined is where we're at, is what we want to change. So the last meeting, again, wasn't very receptive for at least me and a few other people that we had not liked the fact that we were being told what to do again by the state of California. And, but it's a mandate, it's something that we're going to have to do whether we like it or not. And the fact that we can change a few things to make it a little easier for all of us and a little more difficult for a property owner to say, hey, I want to put a doghouse in the backyard. And that's where we're at. So, but if you want to hear the whole process, I totally fine with that. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Mark,
What do you consultants anticipate as the biggest unintended consequences of either just going with the state mandate, as it were, or the new, the new law, or, adopting our variations that staff recommends? What are the unintended consequences, possible unintended consequences of each?
Well, so yeah, just to be clear, you're already implementing the state law. It was effective in 2016. And so the city's already implemented that. The only thing before you is whether you want to customize what the state has already written. And so what are the biggest unintended consequences? I would say it's the other way around. Right now, since you're using the state law as written, you have very little flexibility. So the implication of adopting this is you would have more local control over how this is implemented. So the implication of not adopting it is that you have less local control, and the implementation of adopting it is that you have more local control. But if you want to go absolute worst case scenario, the ordinance as written does give the Planning Commission the ability to override some of the height restrictions and setback restrictions. So if a quorum of if you have an applicant that wants to build an EDU that is 2 feet from the property line, and their neighbor doesn't want them to do it, but this ordinance is written such that they could bring it to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission could evaluate the situation and then decide whether that's a good move or not. I assume that a quorum of the Planning Commission would not do that, but worst case scenario is that you could have a Planning Commission that approves an even smaller setback. Is that the question you're asking?
It would look like San Francisco.
If the Planning Commission elected to go smaller, but the power would be in the Planning Commission's court to modify those standards on a case-by-case basis.
So if we don't adopt this resolution tonight, that would be a more pro-growth, pack them in policy, but it also would tend toward sloppy development. Am I saying that accurately?
If you don't adopt it, you're going with what you've had on the books since 2016, which is the state regulations. If you do adopt it, you've got that plus some customization where the Planning Commission has the authority to override some of those rules in case-by-case basis.
But on the case-by-case basis, we can only do what is recommended in the draft now.
Correct. Yes, we've written it so that the Planning Commission and the city has the maximum flexibility for customization. We've given you as much local control as we can.
So if we don't adopt it, and just want to make sure I'm clear, if we don't adopt it tonight, somebody comes in with the same case scenario and says 2 feet, and we say, no, we want you to go 10 feet. We can't do that because it's in the guidelines that you can only go what is in this recommendation tonight.
Well, so in that case, the state has said that 4 feet is the furthest that you can require someone to be from the property line. So that example doesn't necessarily work.
In the recommendation tonight.
Say again.
So that is what we are recommending tonight.
What you would be recommending tonight is the city to maximize your local control and to have the ability to adjust those things that can be adjusted.
So
We're already required to allow a 4-foot setback. We've been using the 4-foot setback since the latest update was adopted. So we can't reduce that setback, and we could reduce the setback, but we can't make it any greater. We're already doing 4 feet. This ordinance doesn't change that. It doesn't reduce the setback to 4 feet. We're already restricted to that.
it doesn't matter whether we do it tonight or we do it the day of, that somebody comes to us with this So if we don't approve it, we're gonna say you can only go 4 feet. That's what I'm getting. So
No,
I mean,
No.
that's just one example, what the code, the proposed code does is allow an applicant to request a reduction. So, it could be like, so really on a case by case basis. So there may be a reason why that could be a good thing. Like if it's a historical house with an existing 2-foot setback and they don't have any close neighbors and it's single story. And we already have that in our code and you guys have approved those. So like an extension of an existing non-conforming setback. So in that case, it would say, hey, I'd like to have a 2-foot setback and you can consider it. So it allows, really flexibility on a case by case basis and approval by the planning commission.
or we can extend it to 6 feet. We can only extend it to 4 feet.
Yeah, if they were principally permitted and didn't need a special permit, if they follow the 4-foot that's in the state code and in this draft code, they wouldn't need to come to the planning commission because that's the base standard. So really the flexibility is anything where they want an exception to that code.
But the 4 feet is what is already in the code that we're.
Yes. Right now, it's a 5-foot setback in the R16 zoning. And so the state has said, you know what, we don't want to see cities, putting up roadblocks. We want to make the accelerate housing. So we're going to allow a 4-foot setback. We have no choice on that one. So really, it's the existing standards that we're already implementing. And the exception is for development standards or design standards. They come to the planning commission to get an exception that goes beyond what the state is already allowing.
right.
Okay. So is everybody on board with what's going on, or does anybody need to go through and listen to the whole thing, or have we understood what we're talking about now from the last meeting? That's all I'm trying to get to tonight is, do we want to go through the whole thing, or are you good with it?
I'm good with
What-
it. Oh, go ahead.
I'm good. I'm good with it too, Stephanie.
Mark?
I'm not as familiar with it due to working the election on the last meeting.
So would you like to hear what they have to say?
Yeah.
Or, okay. So let's go through go through it and give the presentation of what you're gonna do tonight. You there?
Yep, and so I think, we don't have a repeat of the presentation that we did last time. We weren't planning on doing that. We're just going through what is in your staff report, but if you have specific questions, we're happy to try to answer it on any part of the regulations that were in there. The one thing that I did want to also mention is in the objective design standards, which is part H, that is where, the city is really saying, like, this is where you can address some of the privacy impacts and some of the other, potential impacts that these can have to neighbors. So this is a section that is optional, that the city has, some discretion over right now and moving forward. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight that, and those are to address some of the neighborhood impacts.
Thanks, Vanessa. So Mark, going through the packet, have you seen anything that you have specific questions on?
No,
Okay. All right, I'm gonna open this up to public comment. and If anybody has any objections, please let me know. Katie, do we have anybody out there that right now that is wanting to talk to us? This is kind of a big deal for the city, and I'm kind of shocked that nobody's out there talking about it.
We have not had anybody jump in.
Okay, so let's give it a few minutes. I would tell everybody that's all the commissioners, take a look at what was highlighted from the last meeting. If there's anything that jumps out at you, please bring it up. Again, I'm not a big
I have a question. Being that cannabis cultivation and processing are a big part of the culture and economy here in Humboldt County, is there any way that that culture and economy could impact our residential neighborhoods with these changes in a way that we really should be thinking about ahead of time, where we, this decision tonight could, there's something on the radar that, we should be thinking about in connection with that, possibly, good or bad.
I can give you bad, but I'll talk to you, let them talk first.
I don't know if Liz, you want to try to answer that. I can't think of any connection whatsoever between these two things. So this is about people building a second unit in their backyard or attached to their house. Maybe I'm not following your question. What is the question again?
Mark,
Yeah, maybe Chris could go for it. Thanks.
I'll give you a quick one because I got to deal with it all the time where I work. So having a secondary unit means people can grow indoors more. And having rental properties, and people that have rental properties have this problem a whole lot, is that they rent a property out and people do indoor grows. They literally rip the floors out and blow what they call blow the house up. So I might, in my house, I might be renting and not doing that, but with them wanting to create another rental property in my backyard, they may be. And that would be the issue. I think that's where it's going with. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of sounds like where he's going with it.
I see. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the state law already allows these dwellings.
Right. And that's where we're going with it is, again, if you, in my problem with the whole issue, and this is what I tried to express last time, if I take less than 4 steps out my back door, put 1 foot in front of the other out my back door, thinking there'd be another house there, my whole backyard's gone. Somebody can come through the side of the side house, be parking on the street, come in and have a dwelling right there. I have neighbors literally 4 feet away. And if they're gonna be, again, like Mark said, with the cannabis thing, they're gonna be blowing the house up and doing that, or you might as well be living in an apartment complex. And that's not where we're at. We're trying to live in a nice neighborhood where now we're an apartment complex. And it just seems to me the states is super overreaching. And that's where I'm at on the whole thing. It's something we have, not something we want to do, but at the end of the day, we're already doing it and we need to kind of move on with it and get it over with. And
This is the homeowner's choice to do this or not do it.
right, it is. And if the person who's the house that I'm living in wants to do it, I got nothing to say about it except for move out.
Well, and adopting this allows us to have some say in the matter other
Very-
than the state law.
Right. And that's where we're at. And that's where most people are letting us know that we have a little bit of say into it and we want to be able to have some say in it.
So- Yeah, so
Good.
that makes me much more comfortable knowing that we will have a say in it rather than just following the state law, which is a huge state. So at least our community, as a planning commission, we have a say in some of the issues, which makes me comfortable.
Right, and I think it's worth pointing out, this ordinance does include some design standards. So while you can't change that 4-foot setback, you can say that the house has to have certain design standards. And you're limiting it to 16 feet. Also worth noting that your neighbor could currently, prior to all of this, per city law, your neighbor could build 5 feet from the property line for their house. So if they wanted to do an addition onto their house, they could have come within 5 feet. This is 1 foot closer. To answer the cannabis question, if it's the property owner that's wanting to build a grow house in their backyard, I don't think they would go through the trouble of building something that's going to be permitted as a residence with a bathroom and a kitchen in it. They could just build a garage and do that. If it's a renter, Liz would have to answer this, but the state required cities to either allow people to grow 4 plants in their home or to prohibit it. And that was 2017 or so. So does the city allow personal use cultivation currently?
Yeah, that's the state allowance. And it's 6 plants. It might be 6
4,
plants.
6, something like that.
Yeah,
That's
so
already allowed?
Fortuna doesn't have the ability, the authority to prohibit that, but Fortuna did adopt an ordinance with standards. So the state allows standards. And one of those standards in Fortuna is that those 4 or 6 plants are within a detached, like within a structure, either the house, a portion of the house, or a shed or a garage. So that's allowed now for personal cultivation. They're required to get a permit from the city to do that. We haven't had a lot of permit requests. I think one in the last couple of years. The city did just, the police department has they're enforcing it with, what is that, Katie? Katie has the tickets. Katie receives the tickets.
They're administrative citations. So because we do have an ordinance that prohibits commercial growing and residential growing, over a certain number of plants, and that doesn't meet certain parameters. There really wasn't any teeth in the ordinance. Now we do have the administrative citations that the PD can issue for cultivation that are $1,000 a day until the grow is eradicated. And then also in our city ordinance, if plants are grown in a residence, it still needs to be able to be operated as a residence. So it can't be over a certain percentage of the square footage of the home. There still needs to be bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens that are accessible. So if somebody were to violate that, now that we have these administrative citations, they could get a ticket and be charged $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Until it's
Eureka did the same thing, and to great effect. So I can tell you that there's practically no illegal indoor cultivation in Eureka anymore because the fines are so steep. The circumstances are so great that it's been nearly eliminated in Eureka. So is that really happening? Is there indoor cultivation happening throughout Fortuna currently?
Is there anybody out there that's watching can call in right now, let people know what's really going on, because it's really going on. I'm not kidding, for where I work, we have people that own houses that have continually come in and have their houses completely tore apart. The
Hmm.
floors and because of illegal grows. Really, the whole-
Recently?
I
Yeah.
understand this is, the marijuana cultivation is an important issue, but I'm not exactly sure how it's tied into what we're talking about tonight.
I feel the same way.
It seems like we're following a rabbit trail.
We're beating a dead horse on that subject right now.
Okay, so let's go back to public comment then. Okay, we're not hearing nothing.
We've had no calls.
Good. Okay, looking for a motion to close public comment.
I move
Motion to
that-
close to public comment.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, so back to you folks. Is there anything that we need to discuss or questions we need to ask other than making a motion to get this through tonight?
Thanks for answering my question about cannabis cultivation and processing.
Okay. So hearing nothing, I'm looking for a motion then for tonight, unless somebody else has anything they'd like to talk about.
We make a motion or a recommendation?
It's
So
a,
mo- It's a motion that makes the recommendation. So it's a motion.
I'll make the motion, a recommendation that the Fortuna City Council amend the Fortuna Municipal Code by deleting chapter 17.06.183, second residential dwellings, and replace it with 17.06.001.5 accessory dwelling units.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely,
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie,
Yes.
Chairman Mobley,
yes.
and Commissioner Sides.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for guys for getting this done. I know it's been a problem. And again, sorry for all the issues and problems. We're kind of, we seem like we were shooting a messenger and please don't think it as that.
Yes. Plan West Partners, we do appreciate all your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you.
So let's go back to Liz. Is there anything going on in the world of the city right now that we need to talk about?
Yeah, yes, just really briefly. And this is a really fun thing to share, and I'm gonna put it on the screen. And right now, the city parks department is they held one yesterday, and tomorrow is another workshop where it's a let's see, public comment. They're taking public comments for a grant application. It's a requirement of the grant application, asking for the public's input on what they would like to see done with this potential city park. So city is in the process of purchasing this parcel and applying for a grant to develop it as a park. And they're asking for ideas on what the public wants to see on this site. So this is a really fun thing to present. We're all really excited about it because it just keeps getting closer and closer. The city's been working on this for quite a few years, and really the city manager, Merritt Perry, has been driving it, and we're really grateful for that because you know, he's dialed in with grants to get get city parcels developed with public infrastructure or whatever, parks, public works infrastructure, storm drain, roads, things like that. So this, as you can see, is this 7-acre parcel adjacent to the Eel River. It's on the east side of the Eel River next to the River Lodge. And it's right at the point there, that's the little parking area, and the Eel River overlook parking area with the table and the fish overhanging it. And it's So it extends out, it's a 7-acre parcel or a portion of this larger parcel, and that's what the dashed line is, the property boundary. And then on the overhead, you can see, so this is the overall parcel. The city is also would purchase the whole thing to, and they have plans to extend to extend the city wastewater treatment plant. So they would underground directional bore under the river and then have a disbursement pipes on the far side of the river. And then Fish and Wildlife is also interested in enhancing the cottonwood, the riparian willow cottonwood forest here as wildlife habitat. So it would really be, accomplishing 3 things. But the grant is for development of the park here on the east side. And so, we're just taking anybody's, all kinds of ideas, what we have in mind. There could be walking trails and a picnic area similar to what you see here, just for, a typical park for public to access and enjoy adjacent to the river. A natural resource and cultural interpretation area with signs and, trails and things that relate to the natural environment and, the Wiyot ancestral territorial boundaries. Sunday was native, indigenous a holiday. And I noticed that they did have a public walk along the Eel River there. Right at Strong's Creek is where there was an ancestral village for, fishing and collecting food and things like that. So that's really important to them. Ideas are for a food truck court, having any, entertainment there, for people to gather and possibly have, outdoor festivals and things like that. The city's idea is to at some day in the future have a seasonal dock so that people can actually launch little boats and things and, stand up paddle boards, kayaks, canoes, swimming, dog park, or viewpoints to just enjoy the river. Obviously people enjoy it now, and this would just be an additional attractant for visitors and residents. Trail component, fish viewing. So yeah, the city is taking public comment now. You can go online, and on the city website, there's a link to fill out a survey, or you can go to the River Lodge. The next meeting is so the next meeting is the 20th at the River Lodge. And the grant submittal is November 5th. So the grant is a Proposition 68 Rural Recreation and Tourism Program. They've got 23 million total available, and the individual awards would be in the $200 to $3 million range. I'm not sure what the city is proposing. So yeah, so if you want more information, go online or go to the meeting and or call the project manager. The staff manager right now is Cameron, the Parks and Recreation director. So that's a really fun thing that the city's working on. So any questions on that?
Looks like fun.
It looks gorgeous.
Yes, we're really excited. We're
Thanks
just really
for-
excited to be able to preserve, some riverfront property for the public to use.
Thanks for the
I think
update.
it's a great idea. I love it.
I
Yeah,
love,
Yeah, it'd be nice to have something down in that area where around the hotels that people can go.
yes, the River Lodge guests can enjoy it, the hotels, restaurant people, just visitors driving through, stopping at the gas station, taking, eating their lunch there, just getting a little exercise, and just being able to just view the river and really enhance that experience.
I think
Liz, I got a question. Are they planning one way or the other, no matter what they do, to have more parking there off Riverwalk Drive, one way or the other, to have more cars be able to pull off Riverwalk somewhere and park there, no matter what they do?
I haven't heard that as part of a plan. Normally, individual projects, like commercial developments obviously have to provide on-site parking.
Oh, okay, okay.
Any vacant
So-
parcels that aren't developed now would have a parking lot, just like Tractor Supply and.
Yeah, but it is a given in that if you have any one of those particular things, you're going to want a spot for people to park, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I imagine there probably would be some parking for the park development. Some type of parking.
Be kind of dumb not to.
Yeah.
We went to I went to a place down in Sebastopol. And it was kind of nice. It was a park area. They had a whole bunch of little small storefronts that were open air storefronts. So the whole front end of the store literally opened up. Like little ice cream shops and little, knickknack shops and whatever, shopping things going on. And I thought it was kind of cool the way they had it all set up. And depending on which weekend you showed up, they had, like I said, the food trucks there. They had different like concert type things where different bands would play out in the middle of the square and that kind of. It was set up really sweet. It was really cool for everybody. That would be a really good spot right there for. Anyway, so back to you guys. Anybody got any questions for anybody? Okay, there's nothing. So thank you, everybody, for your participation tonight. I know it was a little weird tonight and sorry for being late again. Hope everybody has a good weekend. I'm looking for a motion to close.
I'll make
make
that
a-
motion. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'll make a motion to close.
I'll second.
Thank you. Katie?
Roll call vote, Commissioner Blakely,
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie,
Yes.
Chairman Mobley,
Please.
and Commissioner Sights.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all. and-
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.